Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video going over all of the updates that we've gotten for Age of Wonders 4 since the Eldritch Realms DLC launched on June 18th. On the same day, we got the original Mystic update, and we've gotten a lot of updates since then. If we just hop over to this page, we'll see that um, last Wednesday, which was I guess this Wednesday, the 10th, would have been when the 1.3 open beta became available. I didn't see this on the official Age of Wonders 4 forum. I saw this on the Discord, and you can read a little bit about this on the Steam page. So I think it's something that a lot of people might not be aware of. But there's also other little updates that people have seen from a week ago. We got the 1.2 update, and then before that, we had a little hotfix pretty soon after the new content came out on June 20th, and I think there was another one on June 20th that didn't quite capture everything. I think they must have come back and done another second patch on the same day. We'll look more at these pages later in the video. I've gone and pulled them aside so we can actually go through all of the bullet points for each of them. But I wanted to start off with the open beta, seeing as this is the most recent changes and has stuff that probably people haven't seen quite yet if they're just playing around on um, the basic version of Age of Wonders 4 if they haven't switched over to the betas and the option on Steam. So let's see, what do they say here at the beginning? There's some bug fixes and some other adjustments. The biggest one has to be the change to Smith's Guilds, which is interesting because I talked about that very recently. And then they also said they wanted to change some stuff with Eldritch Sovereigns. They've identified some areas where things should be tweaked, and um, they want us to let them know what our pain points are. So like for me, Chaos Pulse is way too strong, way too strong. Mage Bane's being something you can summon seems a little bit silly, but I don't know if it's as silly. And then being able to like recruit tier 1 units at legend rank was a bit silly. So I think that they're actually addressing all of those types of things already. It seems like other people are thinking the same things, and they want to tweak it to, make the game a little bit more in line with the way things were before Eldritch Realms. Yeah, they're just telling this is how you get into the open betas in case you've never done that before. So Smith's Guild reduces the starting ranks from 2 to 1. It used to be your tier 1s and tier 2s would get +2. Now they're just getting another +1. They'll make it harder to get the 5 ranks that you need in order to be at max XP when you build a unit. Although I think it should be technically possible based off of this change alone. And they also made it so that you gain an additional starting ranks to 1, 2, and 3. So the stuff you get in tier 1s and 2s are lower, and tier 3s are now included in this, which is pretty interesting because I think I actually mentioned something very similar on the Discord. Let's go find that actually. Yeah, what's really cool about this post is it looks like I suggested pretty much the change that we're going to see in the 1.3 update for the Smiths Guild. I don't know if this is a great minds think alike type thing, or if somebody actually read this post and thought this seems like a logical way to tweak the guild so that it's still making those lower tier units better, making them viable for longer, but it's making it so that tier 1 units and tier 2 units aren't as overpowered, aren't as strong as they became in the earlier version of the Mystic update. The next thing they have in the highlights section here for the 1.3 update is the changes to the Wizard's Tower. Now you get +1 rank to tier 1 magic origin units at the first level, and the tier 2 and 1 get +1 rank at the Wizard's Tower 2, and at Wizard's level 3, it's very similar to the Wizards or to the Smith Guild. It's going to affect tier 1, 2, and 3 magic origin units. And underneath this, we have some changes to the tomes. I thought it was really interesting that they haven't changed that much with the tome of corruption with these updates. I feel like I've heard people saying that originally it was designed as a tier 4 tome, which makes a lot of sense to me based off of what the abilities do and how strong it feels compared to the other tier 3 and tier 4 tomes. It feels more like a tier 4 tome at a glance. And same with the or I guess the tome of corruption is similar to the Tome of Tentacles. I believe I heard other people saying on the official Discord, Georgie may have said at one point that Tome of Tentacles was originally designed as a tier 2 tome, but they wanted to make sure people had access to the new things relatively early in the matches. They didn't want them to have to wait until like turn 50 to start to see the tier 3 tomes, because if you're playing in single player, you may not rush through things as quickly as people in multiplayer. And honestly, um, turn 50 isn't that late in the game, or according to the devs, they expect most games to go for 120 to 150 turns or something like that. Um, but yeah, let's get back to these tomes and what they've changed. So the Pirate Shrine now no longer grants all units +1 rank, but it makes it so that it now makes it so that non-faithful units are faithful when they're built in that city, and it gives you more gold income. That just seems pretty bad now. I think a lot of people were taking that building simply for the plus rank to all units, so that's probably a good change for that tome. In general, it seemed pretty strong, similar to the Tome of Corruption, so I think making that weaker is probably a good thing. But I know people were more concerned with Tome of Corruption than with the Cleansing Flame, Tome of Cleansing Flame. Now, Tome of Dreadnought now gives you +2 ranks to constructs only instead of +1 units to, or +1 rank to all units produced, which is big because I know a lot of people really do not like constructs, and I could see this actually making them a pretty viable build. But I don't know, at the same time, constructs are very weak to lightning damage, and that's one of the best damage channels in the game. A lot of people will just have it anyways, so it takes them very little effort to counter you. Tome of Exaltation has now made it so that Ascended Warriors costs less mana, but costs more casting points, which is significant. That's a pretty big change. I think if I remember correctly, this is the one that levels up the units, and just spamming that out could be a little bit obnoxious. Increasing the casting point, I think, will be actually significantly more limiting than having a higher mana cost, and it's a pretty low drop in mana cost, so I think that seems like good changes. These are changes that I like a lot, even though I don't see these tomes too often, or those tier tomes, the tier 4 tomes, too often. This is big. They're changing it so that the traits that used to give you bonuses to just units like polearms and shields no longer do that. They're making it so Chosen Uniters is going to give you +1 rank to units recruited through Rally of the Lieges, which is really strong. Rally of the Lieges is a lot better than it used to be at the time of release, so I could see this actually getting picked quite a bit, alongside things like Wonder Architects, to get some better units out of your rally earlier in the game. It's no longer mutually exclusive. A lot of these things are no longer mutually exclusive. That's great for roleplay, because I think a lot of people weren't enjoying the limitations. They were trying to build a specific faction that is kind of evil and good. Like, what is evil? What is good? It's all a matter of opinion. These are just mechanics that people wanted to play around with, and that having the limitations, just it was a little bit. It felt wrong for people who were role playing a little bit. And then I think people who are just going through it mechanically, they could also have some agreement with other people to not do that if they thought that, the evil stuff should go with evil stuff for balance reasons, and the good stuff should go with good stuff for balance reasons. Devotees of Good no longer gives the ranks to just shield and polearms. Now it's when you're at max good alignment, which is not easy to do, but there's more tools to get there than there used to be in the game. Now you can, like, tell the Umbral Abyss dwellings that you're going to kill them, and you'll get like +20 alignment, and that should help you get to pure alignment. I think that's like +100 alignment a little bit more easily. It's 1/5 of what you need to get there. It no longer gives you stability for each level of good alignment, and now gives you +15 gold per level of good alignment, which I think is a significant boost, or a significant improvement to this, because stability could impact other things. It could have cascading effects to give you more resources, but I think getting +2 knowledge wouldn't help you cross the thresholds to get more knowledge um, often enough to be worthwhile, whereas just having more gold will allow you to be more flexible, do more things with that bonus. Relentless Crusaders is no longer exclusive. Same with Cannibals and Raiders, and now Chosen Destroyers is mutually exclusive with Keepers of Knowledge. I don't know if the rest has changed. I actually haven't opened up the open beta and played on it yet. I just saw these changes, thought it'd be interesting to talk about in theory. Fable Hunters giving you +5 strategic map regen on all of your units. That seems kind of weak, but at the same time, if you're clearing a lot of nodes, that could help them just stay healthy. The Perfect Artisans no longer reduces city cap by 1. Might make this something that I pick more often. I mean, that isn't the worst part about it. The worst part about it is increasing the production cost on all of your buildings. But at the same time, I like this change. I hadn't noticed that earlier. It's like a short little line in this long list of changes, so it's easy to miss things like that. Runesmiths is now going to increase the research cost discount from 30 to 40%. I don't know if that's enough to make up for the fact that it's losing out on this +1 rank bonus. A lot of these other changes seem like they are offering something better in exchange for this, but I know RuneSmith in general was picked fairly often, and that may have been part of their consideration. They thought maybe this thing doesn't need to have as good of a boost as this, given how often it's already being picked. I mean, it's very nice to have the discount cost reduced and then the upkeep cost reduced on these enchantments. They're quite powerful. All right, Keeper's Knowledge is now mutually exclusive. Powerful Evoker is now going to give you plus extra 10% damage. Yeah, that 10% more damage seems a lot more valuable than a 10% reduction in research cost. Signs of Evil is now going to have a alignment icon to make it clear what happens at the different effects. That might actually be worth loading up in game to take a closer look at. But for now, let's just move on to the rest of this. Mystic Attunement, quick casting no longer can be done multiple times on the same spell. That seems like something similar to what we do in Skirmish mod. I think casting the same spell in a turn can be a bit overpowered. Like Infectious Insanity twice in one turn is a lot. That's a lot of insanity on a lot of enemies. The Enchained Mind and Limited Seal now have equal priority, so they can't be used on the same unit, I think, is the idea. And yeah, they don't want to remove the effects of the other thing using the other ability. It says the tier 5 column using this Lightning Seal on the unit means that the Ember Mistress cannot use its Enchained Mind on that unit. I wonder if they can do that with Stun and Frozen, because that'd be great if they figured out how to make that work and how to get the AI to stop freezing stunned units or stunning frozen units. Alignment waning has been changed so that it will wane towards your starting alignment instead of always towards 10 alignment. That makes sense, because if you're evil, you don't want to be shifting towards good alignment, I think. And yeah, you start off really good, you don't really shift down to 10, although that doesn't seem very common based off of all the things that can change alignment at the beginning of the game. Item Forge has now name variations for each Eldritch relic damage channel infusion. Okay, that makes sense. And let's see, if it's got fire damage, now it's called a fire spike instead of a mind spike. Eldritch realms are no longer generated on the world, which is probably good if you're not playing Eldritch realms or Eldritch rulers. If you are, that might be a bit annoying because you might not get as many good boosts to your weapons as other ruler types. Pantheon now has advanced setups where you can enable ascension traits, skills, recruiting them as heroes. Yeah, that's disabled in multiplayer. Regardless of these settings, you can always ascend your ruler at the end of the game. Not that interesting for me. Story Realm added a custom tooltip to explain the relationship between Serena and the Covenant, added additional clarification. Okay, yeah, it's cool. I haven't done much of that stuff myself. Fallen Bastion event in the Castle Ruins Wonder in the Umbral Abyss has the option to pay mana without explaining it, and remove the rampant from the, and it would remove the rampant umbral taint from the enchantment. Okay, that's interesting. Emerald Dwelling now has more frequently asked to declare war on other rulers during demand events. Before this was very low chance of happening, now it's 50-50, both valid for free cities and rulers. Oh, interesting. Umbral Thralls now have one less society trait randomized as their innate thing takes 1 point in their spots. Before this change, they had 3 satiety traits, which isn't quite right. Oh, okay. Paul of Gloom can no longer terraform unahead promises and Gloom Trainer. Oh man. I also saw something in multiplayer a modded multiplayer where it turned the water into gloom terrain. I don't think that's in the base game. I'm pretty sure that was because of the mod. Exile any independent units exiled into the Umbral Abyss will now die instead of being moved to the Umbral Abyss. That seems pretty good. Abductors no longer able to abduct invulnerable units. Yeah, invulnerable units should be maybe even immune to insanity too, but that's just an opinion. Like, I think maybe applying debuffs or anything to them shouldn't be possible if they're invulnerable. Duration pins for all outposts are now visible to everybody. That's good. The art is probably not super important, although they did post a pretty funny image of Serena being buff. And Toadkins having hooved legs sounds great. I don't know if I really want to dive too much into this because it doesn't change the mechanics too much. And like we said earlier, there's other things we can look at, like the Mystic update 1.2. I think there's a lot less in these than there are in the 1.3 update. I think that's like the big update that they've been working towards for a little bit now. All right, so this is something about stability. They want our feedback. Yeah, make sure you keep sending them feedback in like the Discord and the official forums. All those places I think work in general. So fixes AI is no longer crashing or avoiding you entirely, although I have seen it kind of just sitting around, not doing much for a few turns before trying to move up on me. It is a bit interesting where the AI is right now. All right, so the art has stuff pretty quickly after the AI changes. Um, Combat fixed an issue where boon stealing was able to steal active abilities, hidden buffs, and more. Right, yeah, that was allowing Dragoons, I think, to get more than one attack when they did their thing, because it used to like give them action points back just to let them move. But I think if you're standing in like cleansing flame or maybe boon stealing, that could get rid of the mouse that takes away the ability to attack again. So it's just like it's almost like you got killing momentum, but you don't have to use killing momentum to get more action points back. All right. There's an issue with magic materials treaties, and there's also some issues with the Umbral Dwellings. Oh yeah, you don't want minus relationships for declaring war. Umbral Dwellings should like that stuff 100%. Next few things they mention in the faction section is basically stuff about the new mystic subcultures and how certain things weren't working correctly. I mean, this one is talking about gifted casters, but pretty much everything else is talking about the Mystic faction and the new stuff around that. The happening events had two things that weren't quite working as correctly. I think there's probably more that they haven't quite caught. Like, for example, I was seeing something weird with living vines only affecting one player in combat because it would get applied on their turn and then both players would have it dispelled at the end of that one player's turn. That just basically means only one player is going to get immobilized, and that doesn't seem quite right. That seems a little bit unfair because you can basically figure out who that player is going to be by being either the attacker or defender. If you're the attacker, I think you don't have to deal with it. That doesn't seem quite right. But yeah, moving on past the happenings, they fixed some crashes in the interface menu here. And I think we're actually getting to one of the more interesting changes. Right here, they talk about how Umbral Malady no longer takes you under 50% of your unit's max HP. They can only go to 50% of their HP, which is quite a significant change to the Umbral Abyss and the malady that just takes away HP from their units. If you can get somebody down to 1 HP, they're a lot easier to kill than 40 or 50 HP out of 80 or 100. But yeah, let's go back up here. We kind of just skip past some of the other things like the item forge, talking about the fire infusion on the relics. It was saying something wrong about the damage increase per item tier. They changed the society trait of Alapavar from chosen destroyers to ritual cannibals. I think I remember seeing something in the Discord about this because Avoxel is a big fan of Alapavar and doesn't think they're necessarily as evil as they have a reputation for. And I think that taking away chosen destroyers helps lean into that a little bit more. I remember when I saw that there's a dragon with chosen destroyers, like, okay, that's the evil dragon. It has to be. Um, so there's some other things that they changed for the story realms, like for example, Sundrin has I think Gloom Shepherd removed at one point. They gave them a Gloom Watch beacon to help take care of that. there's just some things that we're missing in Arcalot too. There's an issue with Warlock and this Kirko, not Kirko, I forget what they call them in this game, Shadurko, uh, where they were not marked as blocked rulers. The Cleansing Flame, this is the change that I was talking about earlier with the Dragoons being able to just attack over and over and over again. This is the point where they fixed it. They also changed something with Zealous Ignition where it could not be used during combat. Yeah, I mean, not being able to use one of your things is a big deal. You want to be able to use the tools that you have access to. Um, Ritual of Gloom Herald was not shown part of the Tome of the Umbral Abyss in the encyclopedia. That seems pretty minor. Not having pins on the provinces is also pretty minor. And yeah, that's pretty much everything here. The world map has some things with like the global teleporters not having a destination, but I think we can move on to what was it? 1.1. Yeah, this was the 1.2 update that we were talking about here. Now we're going back in time even further to the 1.1 update hotfix. I think I have, yeah, the 1.1 hotfix number 2, which was very short. This is something that came out on the same day. It posted June 20th. This one was also posted June 20th. And then we have the Mystic Update 1.2. Wasn't that the one we were just looking at? Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, yeah, I can get rid of this one. This is not what we're going to be looking at. So yeah, moving back to the 1.1 update hotfix, we have some information about the Ritual of Gloomveil. So, you know, if you haven't been playing too much, you may not have noticed that this is a spell that I think gives Umbral Flesh to everybody who, yeah, it says right here basically, it gives it the ability to give Umbral Flesh to people who aren't your starting race, or it gives you Umbral Malady immunity. And if you take the Umbral Disciple Society trait, that allows you to like just pass it on to things that you conquer. Units raised after combat will now receive ranks from the Wizard's Tower and Astral Binding. I think, yeah, I saw somebody do something like that, something that used this interaction in one of our skirmishes. I believe it was Zombie was making his skeletons just legend rank, which is pretty pretty funny, pretty powerful actually. Now skeletons have some utility there. The Dark Warlock increased the weakening bolts from 8 damage to 10 damage. Okay, that seems probably like a not nothing changed, but I don't really use Warlock, so I don't know if that's that useful, that good of a change for them. They are mostly a support, so they're battle mage, aren't they? So um, they have something on top of the 8 to 10 damage they can do, but we don't need to really look into that now. They fixed some things with the achievements. That makes sense. You want to be able to get your achievements. Some people are, that's really important for them. They just want to be able to say they're at 100% as quickly as possible. Now, the Umbral Abyss is no longer in the auto explore AI behavior. That's probably really good because they were kind of losing units in the Umbral Abyss very often. I'd oftentimes see just a single unit kind of bouncing around, losing all of its HP. So that's awesome. The independent mission would not take into account the cities may change side. Don't remember that change or what that could be referring to. They were not able to construct sanctuary outposts because they were considered too far away in the Umbral Abyss. Well, that's a problem. Yeah, they should be able to go there. Yeah, Living Fogs somehow got bigger than the Baylors, even though Baylors are the tier 5s and Living Fogs, I think, are tier 4. And they share a similar unit design, so that's pretty funny that that was in there for a minute. The Elf, Reaver, Tyrant Knights would break when affected by these transformations. So there's some things in here about transformations, breaking things. That, so they came in here and tweaked a few things to make it so that those issues would no longer happen. Yeah, we don't want things clipping through the floor of Mage Haven. That doesn't seem quite right. Art, visual effects, we can skip this. Let's go down to culture. The production cost of mystic capstone structures were too low. Yeah, we don't want those to be too low. They need to be in line with everything else. Spells did not retrieve overcharge effects. That's a little thing that's just hard to catch on every little spell that can be captured or cast. So I understand how that could get missed. Summoning a summon summoning Rift was not considered a hostile action. Yeah, that probably should be if it's in somebody's domain, because then you can summon right in their domain and scout them out, cause problems. I mean, it gives you vision, so that's massive. It's an issue where ciphers of distance applied to all unit types. I don't remember what this one is, but it's good they're changing. They're fixing things like this. All right, there's some things for events like in these story realms, and Mana Addicts was no longer giving the Mana Addict property to all of your units. That seems like something that needs to never happen. And glad they fixed that and caught that quickly. Power Magic would not trigger on your first unit that received physical damage. Right, this is one of the new things. It makes sense why that might not work 100% of the times. They just gotta like fix a few things. There's a few things in here about the happenings and toll seasons. Yeah, if you didn't see it, I did a video on toll seasons. So yeah, if you want some help getting through the event chain, feel free to use that resource. After taking a second to look through the happenings and a lot of the changes that they made here, this is just a lot of things not working as intended. For example, this one was triggering only on friendly units when it was supposed to affect both friendly and enemy units. And it's really good to see that they're going back and checking all of these for these details, because there's a lot of really interesting happenings. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different ones mentioned here. And I think you can get something like 20 or so different happenings that significantly alter the way the game plays. When you consider the way those could interact with all the different cultures, all the different tomes, all the different traits that you can pick, there's just a lot of different places where things could cause issues. So it makes sense that they missed some things. And yeah, like I said earlier, really happy to see them going back and checking these things, because they are very significant. They really affect the flow of a game. 12 seasons now includes AI players during multiplayer games. In single player, that was already the case. I believe it tries to target the strongest player, the person who's in the overall first ranking. It doesn't care if you're first military ranking, it only cares about your overall ranking. So I think it's very unlikely that AI players are going to be at the top of that list, but if they are, they should be able to get targeted. Find an issue where they yeah, they fixed an issue with two flavor events were not showing as part of the regular story flow. That's not good. You want to see those random things that don't occur in every game, because it just adds a little bit of a flavor, yeah, to the event. So yeah, there's crashing and things were incorrectly DLC locked, right? Because this is something that is, I think, tied to the DLC if I remember correctly. I think it has the Eldritch Realms icon next to it. Interface things I don't think are worth really diving into. Same with the modding and controlling. Multiplayer may be worth taking a quick look at. Takeover involving another client would break in multiple ways, and now it's no longer doing that. Yeah, that's good. I'd like that whole idea of AI takeover, but it just seems like it's causing stability issues, or in the few chances or the few opportunities I've had to see in that, and actually I've seen it cause stability issues. So I'm still hesitant to use it, but at the same time, I love the idea. I think it's going to be really fun to play around with once I feel comfortable relying on it. There is something that would happen to when two players would take over at the same time. That's a problem in multiplayer, because usually a lot of people um, have access to say, yes, I would like to take over. So if there is some kind of confusion on that, you don't want that to break the game. All right, and apparently it was not triggering properly during hot seat. I think that's something that's more for people playing on consoles, because I don't think we have hot seat on PC. I don't really know what this is referring to. If you do, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Out of sync is very common. We all know that if we're familiar with multiplayer. That just is part of multiplayer. Story Realm has changed a few things, so there's more gold and other nodes. Arcalot is no longer having the converting routing units not count towards delaying Lilith's ritual. Yeah, you want to be able to get those units count towards that tick, because or that countdown, because I think you only have 20 turns or so, and every little piece will help with that. Um, there was a few changes made to consecrating Firestorm, and we have a few other changes made to the Umbral Abyss, like renaming the Rift Towers to Sated Adductor Towers. Yeah, this is the thing that would occur in the in the dwelling itself when you go to try and either kill them off or I guess defend them from another player, right? What else is there in here? I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. There's some crashes that would occur when they try to spawn a hero with one of the new subcultures. Which makes sense to me because you probably aren't going to have the situation where a hero spawned in by an infestation is of the new culture come up too often. I could easily see that just getting missed when they were doing their quality play testing. There's some other interesting things in here at the bottom, like how new rulers would get spawned in free cities, and that wasn't quite working as intended. The tag filters on draft structure rank bonuses weren't correct, so a lot of units weren't receiving their rank bonuses correctly. They also made it so that the teleportation circle awards +1 rank to magic origin units. I think it probably said that, but it wasn't actually applying it before this change. And they also made it so that the shipwreck pickup was awarding the right amount of reward. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I had for you today. If you have any questions or thoughts about the updates, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I'll see you around. Have a good one.